Welcome everyone. It's a long pending video and I've been thinking about it, thinking how I can simplify the whole process of building a website which has an OpenAI enabled thing similar to what you might have seen in the Chat GPT or Bing Chat. And then how do you package it? And then best way to package it is containerize it and then host it in one of the container hosting platforms across anywhere. So my name is Ritu and I'm a cloud solution architect at Microsoft and I will walk you through a bit lengthy video. So stay with me and I will try to explain the approach and then I will show you the code. I will write each and every line of code in front of you so that you understand how to proceed further, what you need to do and how simple this is to do it. The simplicity is the key here. A lot of times we often push ourselves back thinking that, oh, it is too complicated. But then the whole intent of this video is to give you that sense that it is not that complicated, right? Once you start thinking about your problem you want to solve, you can put things very easily into the application, package it, and host it. So let's dive into that. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to draw something in front of you. So, a couple of things I need. Um, I need an OpenAI, right? That's the LLM model I'll be using. So one of the LLM models I'm gonna use is GPT 3.5 Turbo. I need Python to write the code. I will use Python libraries mainly. And then I need a hosting environment, and that is up to you where you want to host. So I'm gonna host it in Azure as container apps. You can choose Kubernetes services. Once your container is sort of ready, you can put it in the Kubernetes services also. But let me just try to draw you what I'm going to do. Because it is a very simple application, I have Azure OpenAI. I will name it as AOI. I will use a library for LLM called LangChain. This will help me create the prompts. So I'll programmatically control how prompts will work. So it'll create the chain of prompts and then use a little bit of LLM. The LangChain. LangChain is very, very useful SDK when you build an application. That's why I want to touch base. I could have done it without LangChain also, but I wanted to infuse LangChain so that I wanted to give you that sense and feeling. And and then first I will run it in Notebook. One of the best things about running it in Notebook is that it's easy to explain, sort of like a classroom thing. And then once everything looks okay, I will build a Python file, simple.py file, which I'm gonna use another third library called Streamlit. This helps us build a quick website. You don't have to do much, and it picks up your Python file, builds a nice looking website, and then I will containerize it. And once it is containerized, I'm gonna put it to a registry. That's a container registry. And then using that registry, I'm gonna deploy it to container app. This is one of the services built on top of Kubernetes in Azure. So this is Azure service. So if you want to deploy it in Kubernetes, you can pretty much do that. You can run it independently in your local dev environment, which is what I'm going to also run to test my container is kind of properly packaged or not. So this is the overall flow, how it would look like when I build this application. And I'm going to switch to my demo environment. And let me show you a couple of things. Now, from a tools perspective, if you are doing it in your own machine, what you need is Visual Studio Code. That's your editor. You can choose any editor. And then you need a Python runtime. Along with that, you need Docker Desktop, a couple of libraries which you will see what all we need to install. But then if you don't need to, let's say, don't want to bother your local machine with these kind of runtimes and SDKs and Docker engine, you can use our GitHub Codespace. And once you use the GitHub Codespace, it gives you the whole environment and you can just run it like in the browser, uh, just like your local machine. That's what I am gonna use in this demo. So let me quickly switch to my demo machine. And when I quickly switch to my demo machine, let me also change a few things in the screen. All right. And let me minimize it. And I will just go back into, okay. So a few things. First thing first, I need an Azure subscription where my Azure OpenAI enabled. If you're using the OpenAI subscription, you can go to the OpenAI portal and get the key. What I need is the OpenAI URL, that's the endpoint, and the key, which is in here. These two are very important component. I'm going to use them in my environment. So what else? I need the model, which is deployed against my OpenAI subscription. So I have created an OpenAI in my Azure subscription and deployed a couple of models in that. So let me show you that. And then when all these things are required for the application to use, so I'm going to use the GPT 3.5 Turbo. So there is already a model deployed in my subscription, but if you do not have, you can always say create a new deployment and deploy that. So this is the deployment name, this is the model name. I just kept it same for the simplicity purpose. You can give a different name based on the purpose, and then you can see that capacity, etc. Uh, I have got given it to what 295,000 tokens per minute. That's the code I have given. Rate limit is mentioned here, so you can see that. So when things don't go right, it will tell you that the capacity has hit the limit, so you know why it has hit the limit, etc. I'm not going to explain you what is there in the Azure because we are not using this anymore. We are going to use only the names for our configuration. That's why we'll come back again to this place and use it. But if you, let's say, really want to explore further, you can always browse through and understand how it is being developed, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create my GitHub repo. So I'll choose my owner. So I'm going to show you the whole experience. You are using GitHub. GitHub gives you the free account access. You get some 60 hours of code space access. So in a month, and it kind of rotates every month, so you can pretty much use it. So like, let's say I'll say AOI demo, and I just name it this one, okay? And then I make it private so that my keys and all these things which I'm going to use are not kind of compromised. I read it, readme, and I create repo. It should be pretty quick. The repo will be created, and you can see that it is now ready. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new file in this repo, and I'm going to give it a name. Let's say Python sample dot um, demo dot IPYNB. That's the Python notebook extension, and I commit changes, and it creates that. Now I go back to the repo. It's yet not public, so I just made it private. So I'll say create a code space to the main branch. Now what it's going to do is that it's going to give me a machine, a dev machine, where I can start playing with it, right? Now let's see what that dev machine is kind of preparing for. And you can see that in the browser, I have now Visual Studio Code like interface. It is actually the Visual Studio Code which is running in the browser, right? And you can see that it also gives me the console, that's the command line access, etc. So I have got the Python folder and I see the name. So just to check whether it is working fine, I can say print hello. This is called Jupyter Notebook. Those who are from the data science have used it quite frequently. You can see that it installs enable Python Jupyter extension. So this is the first exercise. So it asks me to do that. And then I go ahead and select the Python environment 3.10.3. And it's going to make this thing ready. And this is the one-time activity you need to do. So you have got your Visual Studio Code running with a code, and it is printing what you want to print. So it is working fine. So it's compiling the code, right? So this is what we want to use. A couple of, let's say, um, libraries we might need. Now, when you package it, they also need to be part of that container. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a requirements.txt file, text file. And in that, I'm going to write down those libraries. Now, for you to view it bit bold, so I'll say OpenAI. That's the number one library I need. The number two library is I'm going to use LangChain. So I'll say LangChain, and I say LangChain dot Azure OpenAI. And then I say Python dot env. What I could do, I could install them individually using pip install, and I am going to use something like Streamlit, which is a third party. So I'm going to show you if I am going to install it individually. I have to write it like pip install the name of the um, library, that's OpenAI, and run it, and it's going to go ahead and install it, right? But if I have this file ready, I can just run it once and will install all the libraries. One of the other ways is that you can continue to add the library while you are developing, and then you can use the pip freeze command to get all the libraries you need for this application or you have installed in this environment, and then create a requirement.txt automatically instead of doing manually. Because I'm using only few handful libraries, I'm fine with that. But there are tools available to help you with the complex set of libraries. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say pip install -r requirements.txt. If I run this, then it's gonna go ahead. It should be inside that folder. So let me say Python sample, and then if I run this pip install requirements.txt, then it's gonna go ahead and read the file content, and it will take few more moments and install everything which is mentioned here. So only 5 libraries, but they have so many dependencies, right? So it's going to go ahead and download all the dependencies, and you need to be careful to see if there is any error, etc. So if there is no error, then we are absolutely fine. That means our kind of environment is ready with mostly what we want to achieve in this demo, right? So You might need more libraries when you are building something more professional with a lot more capabilities and feature. But for this demo, we are pretty much fine. So there is no error. You can see that it's all looks fine, but it is also asking me to update the pip. So let me do that. Okay. So it's kind of going to upgrade the pip. And once it is upgraded, pip is upgraded, I'm fine with that. So I follow all the warning. If it asks me to do, I just do it so that I'm up to date. Now, this is the number one thing. Number two thing is that you need a file to basically have all the important values, right? So let me show you one of the examples file where you basically can have that. So you have noticed here that I am going to use something called python.env that basically sets the value to the environment and reads it from there. So you can do it in the context of container. You can pass it while building the container. You can pass it while running the container through the environment variable. So you can take multiple different approaches. I'm kind of doing a hard-coded thing just for this demo, but there are right ways to do it when you provide these secret values. So follow the best practices. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to handwrite that file. So let me also give you that experience. So I'm going to say that .env, the name of the file. Why dot? Because it will be hidden file. So it's just kind of like the GitHub takes care automatically of not pushing the changes. Because if you push the changes to the public repo with all the secrets, then it's gonna kind of have the exposure. So by mistake, you will not be able to do that. So you can say that API version equal to, and then whatever that version name. So we'll come back to that version type little later. OpenAI key. So I'll pick that key value of the key from my Azure portal. And I put them in separate lines with a gap so that we can read it better. And then I say Azure whatever that value may be. And I need Azure OpenAI uh, completion model. And if you notice that the model and the name, deployment name are the same. So let me copy this. I'm just making it pretty simple, right? So you can say completion deployment name, and you're gonna go and see that name. So let me go back to my OpenAI view. So this is the model deployment name. This is the model name. They are both same. So let me put both the values. You just need to be careful about what I'm typing. Azure OpenAI completion model, Azure OpenAI completion deployment name, and endpoint. And this is the version. I want to pick up the version. So if you click here, and then if you go to the playground, right, and you can see that there's an option called view code. In this place, you might find the kind of text. So I'm just gonna copy this and put it over here. This is the place, and that's the thing. And then for the OpenAI key, I need to pick it up from there, but let me just do take that value from here. So this is the Azure portal. where my key and thing will be there. Now, when I pick up the value from this, I pick up. So this OpenAI can be deployed anywhere, provided you have the access. That means this URL and the key, you can pretty much use it. So the endpoint, so Azure OpenAI endpoint, and then the key. And for the key, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just go ahead and hide this part of this activity, and I'm going to copy it, paste it, and I'm going to close this file and come back here. Okay, so it has all the necessary kind of files. Now I'm going to open this notebook to check few things. This will help me identify like whether it's working fine or not, right? So that's kind of activity I'm gonna do. So if I may clear it, that means clear all the output. I'm gonna bring in a couple of codes. Import OS, import OpenAI, and then I'm gonna say load.env just to check if it is loaded properly. I'm not going to print the OpenAI key. I will print the OpenAI endpoint. Okay, that is basically gonna go ahead and print it, put it here. So I can just take this and print it. It's not key, it's endpoint. Just print it. No need to set. This is to check my environment is kind of loaded properly or not. It's not yet defined. That means I need to bring in that. So let me do that from, yeah, should now work. That's why notebook is so important, right? You can see that OpenAI API endpoint is not coming up, right? Um, OpenAI Azure, but I did not mention this like that. So let me say Azure OpenAI endpoint. Yeah, so you can see that now it is reading from the environment file. It is properly loaded, right? If you are making any changes to the environment variable, make sure you restart the kernel. If you restart the kernel, everything is get kind of reset so that you can start from beginning, and then you basically have the new values. So that's the whole idea. So you now have the OpenAI configuration loaded in this environment as environment variables. So if you go into this machine and say env, and then you just see all the environment variable, you'll be able to see all of the values, including the operating system. So it's now loaded as an environment variable. Now, what I'm gonna do next is that I'm gonna add another code block so that I can differentiate. And here's what I'm gonna use the LangChain. Now I want to initialize this LangChain, which is a way to build the prompt and many more things with the OpenAI deployment LLM that is GPT 3.5. So I'll say again from LangChain dot LLM s, yeah, import. I'll use Azure OpenAI, give a better name, and then I say from LangChain OpenAI import Azure chat. You might have noticed that it is kind of giving me the recommendations, and they are basically coming because I'm also having access to GitHub Copilot, right? That's why you see them. But you might not see those kind of experience if you do not have a GitHub Copilot. But just to let you know that this is why you are seeing those recommendations coming up to me. So LLM equal to Azure OpenAI, Azure Chat OpenAI, and here what I'm going to do is that I'm going to set the value of Azure deployment. So you different parameters um, are there. So I'll say deployment equal to, and then I use this os dot get environment, but this is where I'm gonna change this to my key. So you can say Azure OpenAI completion deployment. You have to be very careful about this name. Okay, so the completion deployment name. Okay, generally I copy paste, but just because I have the key and I'm recording it, I'm not doing it. But let's see. If it fails, then we will change the value. So let me try running that. There is a problem, and the problem says that LLM Azure deployment, Azure chat OpenAI. So I'm using LangChain OpenAI. Let me see if that value exists or not. Okay, quick test. It value exists. So this should work. So let me. Hmm, okay, that's interesting. But let me just go ahead and clear the output. Let me run one by one. It picks up the turbo. It should pick up. Yeah, now it is saying something like LangChain core, did it requirement, LangChain. Do I have the LangChain OpenAI? Everything is kind of deployed. Looks fine. So let me proceed further. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a few more code here, and in the code block, I'm going to say that from langchain.schema. We're not going to use this, so let me show you this. Okay, let me show you this first basic stuff. So LangChain schema, import human messages, and then if I say message equal to human message, and then in that I say content, I will say explain the winter in India step by step, sort of like explain, let's say, how is the winter in India. Okay, let's try to ask this question. And then I say R equal to LLM dot invoke. That's how you pass the message. And I'm gonna print R dot content, response dot content. So you can see that it's kind of like this. Doesn't understand because this has not been initialized. So there is some fundamental thing. If I may, let me run this first, and let me do this. That's very interesting because this should work. Azure Chat, OpenAI, LangChain. Let me see if it is properly installed in this environment or not. Pip install. It's installed, fine. That's also fine. Also fine. Let me restart this. And let me run. This is where it is failing. There used to be a older model. Let me see if that is what is picking up. So I'll say chat models. And if I run this, yeah, this is deprecated. So that's why I'm not using it. Uh, yeah, I'm using this one. That's fine. And let me check that. Give me a quick second. Let me check the key values. Okay, I'm gonna quickly check the values here. Quickly check all the keys. Generally, this happens when you do not have the proper value of the key placed. So let me quickly verify that and come back to you. Now let me restart this because I changed the environment variable file, and I'm gonna run this, and I'm gonna run this. Yeah, now it is fine, working fine. So I have mistyped one of the keys, so I changed it and now it is working. Okay, now what is this third block is going to do? So third block is saying that explain step by step how is the winter in India. Okay, that's the kind of message I'm going to pass. I'm going to call this LLM. That is my GPT Turbo, and I just run it, and it's going to give me some thing. So you can see that there is some LLM invoke is giving me an error. Okay, no. Let me quickly check again. The environment variable. That's fine. Looks all right. Okay, that's fine. So let me just go ahead and move into the next phase of the demo. So and then it is what I'm going to do is that I'm going to build a prompt. So let me do that over here. And what it essentially would mean is that it should have given me the thing, but let me just check with this option. Generally, sometimes it considers as an array. I think, yes, that's the problem. So you can see that now it is kind of explaining me winter typically begins in November, lasts till February, onset of the various things. So it is kind of working fine. So it is now able to pull the information and give me this kind of output, right? So this is what working fine, is able to connect, and you can see that it's a lot of core output. Now the next phase of this, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to build some prompt programmatically. So to do that, I'll take help from LangChain, and then in the LangChain you have prompts. You say import prompt template, and then I say from LangChain dot chains import LLM chain. There are many different ways to build the prompt, but this is one of the easiest way. So I'll say prompt is prompt template. Then inside the prompt template, I'm gonna say input variable, and most of us likes to read books. So let's use that concept. So I'll say input, and again, this has to be in the thing book or input. Just name it input. If you have multiple, so you should name it properly. And then the template looks like this. So template is what I am as a programmer going to define, right? So not this, but tell me about the book. and the book is nothing but the input coming from you. So I'm not going to ask you to write the whole prompt, but I'm going to ask you to give only the name of the book, and I design the prompt. So if I say that I want to tell you the structured output, like what is the title, who is the author, when it was first published, who was the publisher, and back then, what was the price, and what's the kind of rating, review, etc., in a tabular format, and then explain the summary of the book or tell the story about the book. I can do that here. I don't have to ask you to do that. You don't need to be a prompt engineer as an end user to be able to get that information. That's what the responsibility of the developer lies. That's why prompt template is so important, that we don't bother you with those difficulties or trying out different things with the prompt, right? So you can really enhance the prompt the way you want. Now I'm gonna finish it off here. That's the prompt template I'm gonna define. It's a very simple, as I said, right? Then I can say that I can define a chain and use the LLM chain. And when I say LLM chain, what is the LLM I'm going to use? I'm going to use the LLM, which is the Azure OpenAI. So I'll say LLM equal to LLM. Okay, the block before where I have defined the LLM, and then I say prompt equal to prompt. Okay, funny name, but this is how the name looks like. So I'm gonna just go ahead and set those uh, placeholders in the parameter by giving the name, and then I'm gonna get response as chain dot invoke, and then here I'm gonna define this like this. Okay, here I'll say input, and then I am going to say that, let's say, War and Peace. So the greatest novel by Leo Tolstoy. Let me know about it a little more. And then I'm gonna print because I'm just testing it out, right? So response dot text is the output it's gonna print, right? Now I ran previously, so it should have all the values. There is some problem in the line 4, which is this line 3 for prompt template prompt. I'm just checking the thing input variables. Yeah, now let me run it again. That's why I said your notebook is really handy. Now you can see that it is now telling me about War and Peace. It's a historical novel written by Russian author Leo Tolstoy, and it explains a lot more beyond that. I'm not going to read it for you, but you can just put any name and it will give you that. So you just change the name of the book here. It gets embedded into this prompt with the input. So I'll ask my end user to only provide the name of the book. They don't need to write the full prompt. So this is the developer job. Now, this is all fine, right? I have got few lines of code. This is the test. I might not be using this anymore. But how about if I have to build an application to package it? Now, to build an application, let me build an application like a Python application. So I say sampleweb.py. Now, this is not a Python notebook, but this time I'm going to use the Streamlit. Now, let me show you the Streamlit application, sample web app for book details. Okay, that's the title, and the sample of display book details. Okay, that's just a Copilot is doing this funny things for me, so it's fine. Right now, I'm gonna show you when you run this application. There is no LLM, there is no OpenAI, only Streamlit. In the Python file, I have used the Streamlit library, and then I'm gonna run it here. If you notice here, I'm gonna say Streamlit run. name of the file, and then hit enter. It is going to open in the local browser with the 8501. So if I click here, it's going to open this nice looking website, which is fantastic. And this is where I'm going to put things together, right? I will have an input where I'll ask the name of the book, and then I'll display the output just below. Very simple. I don't have to break my head. I don't need to be an expert HTML, JavaScript, CSS, React, Node, whatnot kind of developer. I can still build an app. Okay, that's as simple as that. And this is very popular utility for data science community. Streamlit. Remember the name, and you find many different. It's the easiest way to host a Python-based web app. Okay. Now let me say that book name as so it's again Copilot is giving me the thing. So text input is this enter the book name, and I'm storing it into a variable, right? So I can put a condition if the book name is blank, etc. I'm not bothered about it now about this. So I'm gonna take this up to this and come over here, paste it. Okay, that's kind of loading the environment file. And then I'm go back. I take this where I'm kind of initializing the LangChain with the deployment. So I put that. So I should be doing it together, but it's okay. Just to let you know that how the transformation works. I'm not going to use this part, but I'm going to use this part. Okay. And I'm going to just paste everything as is with a little change. So instead of me printing in that, I'm going to change it. And here is what, instead of my hard coding that, I will say that I will read it from the text input. Remember that the book name is the text input. So it's also giving me that reference. And then I am going to display that in some text area. So I can say that here, let me just put it directly. So I'll say streamlit dot text area, and I print the whole thing inside the text area, and that prints the output. Okay, so this is my Streamlit application. How many lines? 37 lines. Full-fledged web application, taking the input as a book name, having a complex prompt behind the scene, giving you the output. That's it. Now, if luck favors us and everything is fine, we should be able to see the view output locally. So let's experience the local output. And then I just open this sample web app for book details. And since there is no book, so it's saying sorry. So I'll say war and peace. And I enter. He's gonna go get me the details and fetch me the information. You can even say something else like Iliad. And if you type Iliad, it talks about the Iliad. And it's like ancient Greek poem. So you just increase the font and you can see that it's giving me the output. So any book you may want to check with it, you will be able to get it. So let's say if I type Homer, do we have a book by Homer? I know Homer is the author, but do we really have the book? So Homer is not a book. So it is telling you that it is not a book. Smart enough, right? Legendary ancient Greek poet who is a rich. So I might be asking a wrong question. That's absolutely fine. But I do have a book called Hamlet. And Hamlet is written by Shakespeare, one of the greatest tragedies of English literature, written by William Shakespeare, and it talks about that, right? You can see that this is the kind of like output you're getting just by providing the name. You don't need to know how to write prompt, just input the book name and it gets it for you. If you want to build this result differently, you can define how the output would look like in the prompt and it'll give you that. That's also fine. Now the application is ready. The next phase is to create Docker file. Now, Streamlit gives you that opportunity to define the Docker file. So I'll say Streamlit Docker file. Search with it, and I go to the Streamlit's official documentation where they suggest us how the Docker file would look like. And I'm gonna take this whole text and create a Docker file. Now I go back here and I add this Docker file, and I am gonna just remove this and paste it here. A couple of things I need to change. I'm not going to get it from the get, so let me delete this. I am not going to have the health check. Let's delete this. The name of the file I'm running for the Streamlit is not streamlit app.py, rather it is sample.web dash web. And then I am gonna, let's say this do this, and I am gonna use, let's say, run pip install dash dash upgrade pip. Let's use the pip, not pip3. Should be fine. So, and you can see that it's going to expose the port number 8501, absolutely important. I'm using the base image as Python, and it's taking the base image from Docker Hub. So you can see that Python 3.9 Slim, and then I am not going to use the curl. So no point installing the curl as an update. I'm not going to use Git, no point updating the grid. So all looks fine. Now, if I now run this in my local machine to build a Docker image, I want to first stop it, clean it, and I say Docker build dot. It will build, but let me also give a name. I'll say tag web sample. Okay. So if I give a name like web sample, it becomes easier. Docker build tag. Sorry, there is two build. Docker build tag not here. So this cursor looks sometimes behaves funny. So build minus t web sample dot, and it's gonna go ahead and then do a couple of activities. Now while it is doing, it's gonna go ahead and then update all the app get, because it may be a bit old. Um, so that's why you see that even the Streamlit ask you to update that, and hence it might take a couple of minutes, but it's worth doing those things when you build the image, because once the image is built and stored in the registry, you are basically not going to modify it. It's kind of read-only copy, right? So it's a one-time update to the base image with all the packages updated, which is good practice for security. So let's just run this for some time and then finish it off. Once it is finished, we'll be able to push it. Now, while it is happening, I'm gonna show you my Azure portal. And when I log into the Azure portal, I'll show you where I am gonna put these things to. So, couple of things I will be doing. I have container registry. So you can build a container registry and store it. Um, yeah, this is the container registry. And I'm going to use this WGSCR. And in this registry, I'm going to push this to, you can put it in the GitHub also, whichever way you want. Now, when you put it, right, you need to log in. So I enable the admin user, which means that I can use this URL and log in to that. So let me close this, go here, and it's this. There is an error. It did not run. Requirements.txt did not work. Let me just see that. Do I need to do a copy dot space dot? Sometimes these things might not work, so I'll just check quickly. Whatever I have written so far should work fine. This fourth one is kind of the most lengthy one. That's the this run command, right? Rest all should be quick. So copy worked. That means now we should have the requirements.txt. We have the requirements.txt. Yeah, spelling is correct. Should work fine. Now I'm gonna upload it here using this credential, right? I'll use this thing and then I will use this password. And what I'm also going to do is that I'm going to host it into container app within. So you can choose to host it in Azure Kubernetes services also, but let me host it in the container app. But before that, the most important thing is that this needs to um, actually run successfully. Because if you are not able to build the container locally and test it locally, so we will also test it locally, which means that we're gonna check whether my container which I build is doing the right thing or not, and it's I'm gonna check it out, right? So let me also walk you through those areas. Okay, if I may go into my OpenAI container app environment. So just like app services app environment, you have the app environment created, you get a static IP address, and then you have apps. Inside that app environment, you can build multiple apps. I kind of have the apps created, and let me show you one of the running apps for the same app which I have created so that you can kind of have that same experience. And this is, by the way, a public URL. You can attach a domain with it so that it doesn't look like a crazy URL with all those junk stuff, but you can just type, let's say, war and peace. And it's going to go ahead and give you the output. Um, it's exactly the same code deployed a few minutes ago, right? Let me quickly check. Oh, it worked. Oh, let me see. It finds that 6 is the key critical component. Yes, it went through. So the copy dot dot is important. That means I'm copying from this place to the work directory. And now my image is ready. Okay, that looks absolutely fantastic. So now I'm going to show you that Docker images. This will show you the list of images. And you remember that the name of the image is web sample. So if I run it, you see that web sample image is kind of available. If I may now run the web sample, I'll say docker run -p 8501. Was it that number? Let me quickly check. 8501, that's the port number. And point it to same, let's say 8501. Generally, no one uses that. And then the name of the thing is web sample. And I say latest. And if I run that, it's kind of port forwarding happening. And it should allow me to open it in my local browser. So I'm going to open it. And you should be able to test it locally before you really push it to the top. So it is now local, right? Now you can see that Othello, right? Yeah, it is able to bring. So my image is ready. Now to be able to push the image to the ACR, that is Azure Container Registry, I need to name it like the Azure Container Registry. But before then I name it as a Azure Container Registry, I first need to log in to that console from where I want to push this image to this registry, right? Otherwise, it will not allow me. So if I run this, stop it, and I say Docker login, and then I'm gonna say -u wgacr, that's the name, and then the URL, right? And also what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy one of the passwords and make it ready. And if I hit enter, it is asking me to provide the password. I pasted it. It is successful. Now login is successful. Now another thing I need is that I need to rename it as per the thing. So the Docker image, you have seen that Docker images has a name like this, web sample. Now I need to retag it. So I'll say Docker tag web sample to this slash web sample v1. Okay, that's the rename I'm doing. So if I say Docker images, it's a local rename happened. I get a copy of that web sample with the name like that. So which is the name of the thing. Now I'll say Docker push and this v1, and I'm going to hit enter. This is now going to push it to the WGACR, which is now connected via the local login. And you can see that the image of size 1.17 GB is now moving to Azure Container Registry, right? That's the size of the image which I'm using. It's a pretty heavy one, right? Because there are a lot of dependencies. I didn't really go in the light mode and then tested everything. So it's just to be on the safer side. I upgraded all the libraries, so it went little big. Right? So you can see that it's kind of getting pushed, right? That means now the registry will have this latest image called web sample. Now, if I go to this ACR and then I go to the repositories, you will find this one of the repositories is web sample, and you can see that it is kind of like done at 12:12 a.m. UTC. So that's the time just now. So it's kind of like GMT plus 5:30. That's the local time. So it's basically 12 a.m. in the night right now in India. It's too late, but it's a good time to do the recording because the world is silent. So we kind of have that image ready. This is the image. Now let me quickly get into the last part of the demo where I'm gonna host it in a container app. So I'll pick up the OpenAI container app. So you can create a container app. It's pretty easy to create. But then you go and add an app on that container app environment. Once it is ready, I choose the resource group, container app name, web sample. I just need to keep that same name so that I can delete. I know which one I'm deleting, and it's going to use this container environment. And I'm going to choose the container I'm going to host in that app. So it is going to use the Azure Container Registry. Choose the right registry. It's going to give you the list of images you have in that registry. So web sample is the image, and then you will see the different versions. So right now only we have one version, and then it gives you the size. You can change that to CPU and memory. But then you go to the binding, and you do not have any binding so far. Go to the ingress. Ingress is required if you want to access it public. So accepting traffic from anywhere, HTTP, transport, auto, insecure, allowed, not good to practice. But then this is important, 8501. Just to make sure that you are putting the right thing, this is the port number. Okay. So I'm going to put that and then session affinity. That's fine. And I'll say review and create. And once I hit the create, you will see that WGACR, web sample, version 1, and etc. will be created as an app within this container app environment, right? This deployment can happen via YAML to a Kubernetes service also. Peak, once you have the container ready in the registry, it is up to you to choose where you want to deploy. So don't restrict yourself only to the container app because I'm showing this demo, but this is, imagine this is a standard container-based application which can be hosted anywhere. And in fact, I have run that in my local machine while I was trying to demonstrate this. So if you see here, um, in this exercise, I'm just opening a sample web app for book details. This is a sample. That's exactly the thing. And let me say, Geetanjali should be able to figure it out because this is one of the Nobel winning works of Rabindranath Tagore back in 1913 when he won the Nobel for this work. And it is actually calling out that. So you can see that this is kind of now looking fine, right? So it's kind of pulling all the details. It is working as an OpenAI application, which is a cloud native, packaged it in a container, hosted in one of the container hosting platform out of many options available. And this is what I'm gonna talk to you today. So let me switch back to this. So we have an OpenAI, right? And then we kind of did this LLM, right? And we did the notebook practice, build a Python app, created a Streamlit for a web-based thing, containerized it, and then put it in the container registry. In my case, it is Azure Container Registry. And then I have hosted in Container App. You can host it in AKS also if you wish to. So that's the kind of thing we have done, right? So we have done everything and we have seen what kind of problem it might occur and we have fixed some of the problems on the fly. But it was a really great experience talking to you about this application development. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day and wish you all the best for your next adventure around OpenAI and cloud-based application. The future is with you.